everything works for a second. Okay, and that shows live, which is good. Now I get to wait to actually, like, show up here, maybe. Doop-a-doop-a-doop. Oh, yeah. I was like, what are you watching, Marlon? It's like, oh, I recognize that voice. Never mind.
It's the thing we're talking about.
Which episode are you on? Or are you
Episode
watching?
25. Right now, who is tied to a cross, being smacked by a dude for
Yeah,
second.
getting your ass kicked. That's right.
Yeah.
Like, beating the shit out of her.
That was a bummer. Like, they held that back for 25 episodes.
And then Mugen shows up, and then all of a sudden she's like walking around like her dad's house. Like, I'm like, wait a minute. Like, how did she get out? Like, what happened here?
He told him to leave. He says, I'll handle these guys. You go. And then she did. Her dad was dying anyway. It was just a bummer for 3 episodes.
Okie doke. We are good. Everything is working for once, automatically.
All right. I can mute this.
So, welcome everyone to Animesplaining. I need to figure out the rhyming structure again. I forgot what episode it is. Normally I go on YouTube and I like figure out which episode we're on, and then I forget the rhyme anyway. But in this case, fuck it. We'll do this live in the Bill O'Reilly fashion.
We're all gonna be yelling about something at some point. So
just
yeah.
run it. Just fucking run it.
So we have finished.
It makes money.
We have finished Samurai Champloo in full finishing Samurai Champloo fashion, as one needs to do when we say that we're going to finish Samurai Champloo and then remember that we actually need to put the episode up, unlike a Gundam series that will not be named that I will keep mentioning.
I apologize to you two and everybody, the other 2 people that watch this. Like, I mean, we would have had this done sooner if my youngest didn't burn his hand off.
Oh, how's that going?
He's fine. He's like, it just looks gross, so we got to change his bandage. But yep, like 1-year-old baby likes to touch the glass of the fireplace. Ooh. Everyone has to learn at some point fire is hot.
Yep.
Yeah, he has learned the most primordial of lessons. So, I guess, Joey, immediately, we finished the series. What are your ultimate thoughts of Samurai Champloo here? Like, what's
gritty.
your general
it's still
reaction?
Pretty gritty. Like, it's gritty. There is a lot of, like, bummer episodes. So, like, you think, like, hey, like, time to watch fun kung fu cartoon. And this, especially this half, gets pretty... A lot of it is a downer. Like, the last episode ends pretty well. And then you have, like, the 2 episodes that are there for comedy, which I think jump the shark. I think you both disagree.
That's what you needed it there for. You just mentioned it, the second half was a bummer. It needed some happy jump the sharky episodes.
But
just a little bit of sweetness.
Yeah, like, I like the first half of the season better.
Okay.
But I will say, like... It seems like the main theme, and I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, I mean, the main theme of it seems with bringing the 3 together when they've all essentially been let down by what they would call their family is that, I mean, you don't need blood to be family, is more or less really the lesson I get from this show.
Yeah, they create their own family, and that's really, really neat.
Yeah,
I'm glad they all lived.
Yeah, I read into it a lot of found family stuff alongside some, like... pretty heavy, like, almost Godzilla -1-esque, we cannot count on the state for anything.
Yeah. A lot of...
Like, all the bad guys are tied with the Shogunate. Like, the Shogunate puts so much resources into killing this dude who's dying anyway.
And I guess that's kind of the theme of the show. You have your regular person in Fu, you have your average person, you have your old-timey dude in Jin, and you have, like, the criminal element and Mugen, and the government just comes and screws over all of them all at once. This government just left no
Oh.
survivor.
Did the government screw anybody over? The government just seemed like they were there. It seemed like the Yakuza were pretty much just the ones really controlling everything.
Yeah, but they got screwed over too. Well, at the end of the day, the Shogunate, that's the top level. That's your president. That's the guy that came in to kill them at the end. He got a sense of emotions.
Okay, so they were the government. Okay, now I got you.
Yeah, those are government agents.
Sadly, I thought they were still the Yakuza.
Nope, they're essentially getting hunted down by the old-timey Japanese CIA at that point.
So why? Yeah, so like basically they just didn't want Fu to find her dad because he might tell her about the government. Then is that essentially?
Oh, the Shogun? No, the Shogun wanted Fu to find her dad for him. Fu ended up leading them to her dad.
Yeah, basically.
He was off dying by himself on a mountain, and then Fu shows up, so now they know where he is.
Yeah, her dad embarrassed the shogunate by from what I remember, it's like by being Christian.
Yeah,
and
pretty much
because it is that whole part of the Tokugawa shogunate, and they kind of have Fu go find him just so they can kill him when he's dying anyway. It just seems like it very much seems like even the show is like, yeah, the government literally has nothing better to do than just be completely terrible to people. And I mean, almost every time the government is shown, like it's bad. I reiterate from last time, this show is angry, and it is very much angrier than even Cowboy Bebop, which is primarily just about surviving through rough times, and this is like the rough times have partially passed, and now it's time to be mad at fascism.
Defense, when I think of like the later 1800s, I can't really think of a lot of governments in the world that were really good to their people.
Yeah. But I guess that's kind of the parallel he was going for with this one. You bring up Cowboy Bebop, I feel like his attitude was very past what's going on in his life. Like, shit happens, you just have a cigarette, you move on. This was very much, oh wait, I can do something about it. I'm pissed. I should probably do something proactive. And that's what the show feels like. Like, yeah, the government's coming out to get them, but they can still live. They can still make a family. They can still have something positive out of the situation instead of just laying down and dying like, their last protagonist.
Yeah, this is this is the more plot-heavy half, because just with we had fewer episodes this time because we only had 11. But more than half are plot. Like we had some filler with the previous half, where it's just like, hey, here are some people on adventures, and I mean between the two-parter with the first assassin that goes after them and the 3-parter that ends it, that's half our runtime.
Yeah, and it's show wrap-up time. Like, we need to actually tell these people what the plot is. Have we figured it out yet? Good. Okay. Well, Fu's after her father, I think, and he screwed over their family. Like, it was kind of just shoved in there like almost last minute, but they did it in such a well-written way that I can't get mad at them for it. They pretty much squeezed the plot in like the last 5 episodes. I can't get mad about it.
Well, because I mean, it's more character development, like for the two. Like I think a lot of us kind of knew that Fu was going to end up looking for her dad. That's where that story was going, based on like foreshadowing they did earlier on. But then you get to know her as they like as Mugen and Jin begin to question her and freaking insult the shit out of her a lot of the time. And then you get the one episode, which is actually the ones that hit me a little harder, were the ones where you go more into depth for Jin and what he was like growing up at his dojo and stuff like that. And then like when he had his nemesis / like person he viewed as a brother, like those were the ones that kind of like hit me, where like Marlon, you said like some of the other episodes were depressing. That one was like, oh, like that one hit me. Maybe.
I guess we all have our favorite characters. I tend to favor Mugen a lot, and that he's a guy who's kind of just giving up on everything, and they keep giving him like little bits of hope, and he's like, maybe I could do this. Nah, no, you can't. Just take it.
Does he have hope? I think his hope is just to cause chaos.
Yeah, but every now and then there'll be like a girl in front of him or something. It was like, hey, maybe I could, have like a life with this person. And no, she's dead.
I don't know. Does he really ever view a relationship?
He comes up with someone like looking for some. They're all looking for family at the end of the day. I think he's looking for something. That's the impression I got. Jin is not looking for anything, maybe a booty call, but Mugen was actively looking for someone throughout the show.
So, way to go, Marlon. One of the more depressing shows we've ever watched, and you're the optimist. I like it.
Because Mugen's an optimist.
Mugen gets very, very horny in this later half. Like there are entire episodes devoted to how horny Mugen is.
He doesn't get problematic horny because there's some I will give the show this he doesn't well, I mean his action he's drawn over the top, but he never goes over the top.
He doesn't cross a line or anything. He doesn't bottle people or anything.
With the blind woman, he's sitting in there naked with her, but he doesn't he's still clearly sitting on the other side of the pond, and then he gets mad at food. It's says mean shit to her, but I mean that's a brother sister dynamic.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, they are like siblings. That's the best way to describe it. They're just siblings.
So, I kind of understand, in a political context. I'm just viewing this as a political show.
Yeah, it is. Very nice.
Sorry, I'm getting over a cold.
All right.
Or allergies, or something that just sticks in the back of my throat that causes me to cough whenever I talk. But, so Mugen is very much hey, norms don't exist.
Right.
Fuck all norms. I don't want to be norms. Whatever. Yeah. And Fu is just kind of the next generation. So, considering that as much as a main bad guy that we get in this show is someone who has taken this traditional Japanese dojo and perverted it to the point that it's just a band of criminals effectively.
Yeah.
Is Gene just the, I don't know, intellectual consistency? Follow the traditions and stick to the script there?
I would call. Oh, go ahead, Marlon.
He's a survival of the old ways. The way I see it, Jin is just a summary of the Last Samurai of Tom Cruise. That's his entire character. We will keep this tradition going. It is stronger than what you have. Your bullets can't hurt us. And yeah, I guess that we know what happens to those guys in that movie. But I feel in the context of the show, him surviving, Mugen surviving, is that we can take those old concepts and they'll find a way to survive in today. They're not necessarily dead. They're wandering around out there.
I think I think Jin starts off as your Clark Kent of the show.
Yeah.
He's very rigid. You're right and you're wrong and I'm here. Then you have the episode in the first half where he meets the one woman who's basically being prostituted by her husband to cover his gambling debts and whatever, and then he begins to realize there's a little more gray here, and then he becomes more fiercely loyal to Mugen and Fu than what comes before, and then we learn more about his upbringing in the show. But I still think generally I would still call him the Clark Kent of the show. He is still fairly rigid in what is right and what is wrong, and he leans to doing right every time.
Yeah, he's still buying a book. It's just now it has to be for a cause. He doesn't buy any orders anymore. He needs to know where the orders are coming from and what are the orders for. Mm-hmm. By the end of the show, he's doing this to protect his family. It's not about the country or whatever anymore. It's for himself. It's for people he cares about. And I can't remember his speech verbatim, but that's what it was about, and I really liked it.
But Fu, I would agree, she has to grow up in this world where she's essentially young and directionless. She doesn't know where to go and what the future holds. She just knows, I'm following these two people and I'm going this way, and this is the way I go, for good or for bad.
Fu is the optimism of youth. and that's just ripped away in the last 3 episodes finally, because she's been protected this whole time, and then she's not protected at all for the last 3 episodes.
Her arc still ends happy, but yes, you have to get through the first previous episodes to get there.
I mean, I don't think it ends. Yeah, it ends happy. They make the most out of a terrible situation, but she came there for revenge and to see her father, and then she finds him dying, and then he's murdered in front of her.
But in theory, isn't that like the best possible ending for her, because she realizes like she has all of this pent up hate for this man.
Yeah.
And then she realizes like at least some of what she thought of him was wrong, or was maybe wrong, or she viewed it differently than what she thought. So at least she gets like a happier memory of this person by confronting him. Like she gets the best possible ending that she possibly could get, given how this story arc was going. Because I mean, otherwise, what do you end it with her killing him? And I mean, that's not happy. I mean, she gets yeah.
Well, I agree with you. I'm just saying she didn't get what she wanted. Whatever she was on a journey on for about 23 episodes straight, kind of got the rug pulled out from underneath her.
She gets her dad asking her for forgiveness. I think generally that's what she probably would have wanted. I don't think she's what she expected, but she would have wanted that.
It's not underneath these circumstances. These are awful, awful circumstances to have to get it. I'm sure she was hoping to like just make him feel sorry and have him like cry in front of her and maybe come back home. But no, he's just dying, and he regrets everything. He thought about you every day of his life, and he regrets everything. That's like infinitely worse.
And what was the reason he left is because he basically insulted the shogunate. Yep, so he had to leave them, right? Is that the?
Yep. He had to protect his own family, and his daughter hated him this whole time, and just now eggs on her face because he was being a real nice guy this whole time. For her protection. So yeah, she gets to be more sad and mad at herself, but she gained family, so that's neat.
When I originally saw this series, I thought that Fu would somehow like play into some sort of ending fight, since she didn't do anything like physical or violent in the show at all, and then they just kind of keep her innocent. It's like, okay, that works, but it saves the catharsis of Mugen and Jean doing their own thing.
Otherwise, I mean, your Game of Thrones, and all of a sudden the last season Arya Stark is having a sex scene and everyone feels uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it's that.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. She's very much a little sister on this show. I don't want to see that. It's a way to represent the character, not even physically. Like you've seen the movie Poor Things. I mean, yeah, it's Emma Stone.
Yeah.
She still acts like a 6-year-old, so it's throwing me off. It's like this here, I can't get jiggy to this.
Mm-hmm.
So Joey, filler episodes. Let's talk about zombies and baseball.
Oh God. All right.
Why did you not like Cosmic Encounter or Cosmic Catastrophe or Cosmic something? Cosmic Encounter is a board game.
First off, they're walking. Well, let me state, because this episode had, I think, it too. The first thing of this half I didn't like was their narration of how they're like doing this journey together, because they're singing like this weird Gregorian chant rap. It's like if like people that sing in a gospel choir were trying to rap, and it's awful. And I think they brought it back for this episode, which also annoyed me. But first off, you're traveling through the forest and you get full eating gross, nasty mushrooms, randomly nasty, and all of a sudden it's just like it just gets weirder the whole time. I'm like, okay, so now let's stop and look for buried treasure because you'll get 10% of this buried treasure. I'm like, weird, but okay. And all of a sudden you're at this mining colony. How long have we been here? 500 years. Okay, it's weird now, but maybe that's just a hallucination. No, and they're all zombies. By the way, we're all undead. hey, by the way, look over there, a giant mushroom cloud. I'm like, are we in World War II? Like, is that where this is going? What's the meteorite got to do with this? What random metals do they talk about the one scene where they're like, oh, do you know mysterious elements come from meteorites? Cool. What mysterious elements? What are we looking at? Is that the buried treasure? I don't know what the freaking crap is going on.
Well, you didn't notice it was getting weirder as you were describing it. They were tripping balls. This happened. They were just in the woods, ate shrooms, too many shrooms, and now this is what they saw.
Cool. Then at least explain that the next episode when you go on a completely different tangent.
Oh no, just leave it up to your imagination. Just never bring it up again. Just move on.
Look at this random drug adventure. At least Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, you know from the very beginning they are tripping balls, and at the end you knew they were tripping balls.
There's the other possibility that maybe the mushrooms caused them to talk and see ghosts. Maybe they really were talking and seeing ghosts this whole time.
He became Bruce Willis.
Yes,
or maybe it doesn't matter because they just wanted to have a zombie episode.
Yeah.
So
that's what I got out of it.
So this director really likes his standalone Everyone Dies episodes. With Space Dandy, the most recent one. Well, not really the most recent one because there's Carol and Tuesday, which I haven't seen, but we'll get to that. Okay. But with Space Dandy, there's literally another zombie episode where it does just escalate. Like, it starts off with zombies on a spaceship, and then it goes to, okay, now the crew are all zombies. Okay, now the crew, like, realizes that they had life insurance, so they're going to get a payout because they're technically dead. Now they have a payout, and now the life insurance companies are sending bounty hunters to kill zombies to keep them from getting their life insurance benefits.
All right, that is on the list now. I know that was a thing.
This episode is the equivalent where in the Bob Saget roast on Comedy Central, where Norm Macdonald did not agree or did not like how roasts were going. He did not like how everyone was getting meaner and meaner. So what he did was he just got a whole bunch of jokes from like a cocktail joke book and just bombed for 8.5 minutes straight. And the entire audience is not laughing, but the comedians are because they know what he's doing. And they just says something nice about Bob Saget. So I feel like this episode specifically is the equivalent to that, and it's similar to in Cowboy Bebop. There's an episode where there is a lobster in a fridge that kills the entire crew.
Yeah, it becomes a little black blob.
Yeah.
Okay, I just eat things occasionally. It was gross. It made gross noises.
So why not end the series with this episode? That's even something you can end the series with as your moment of levity after the depressing end of the season.
Because you don't
even have to put an episode.
You know what?
You put it at the very end.
That's a fair point. I'm gonna pretend it's the last episode and they all died. If you did have Cowboy Bebop, it works. Kinda.
I know it makes the show better, but
they're hit by an asteroid and they died. That's the true ending.
Doesn't really work in Cowboy Bebop because you need to bring a character back to life just to kill him again.
Yeah. But I enjoyed our Jump to Shark episodes. I enjoyed the baseball episode. It was a good time.
The one that threw me off about the baseball episode, the rest of it was like, I mean, it's just there, so it's fine. But like, for whatever reason, the dude doing the play-by-play commentary in 1880s Japan, like, who are you talking to? Like, everyone that's listening is already playing. Like, why do we need commentary?
I enjoyed it just turning the Shaolin soccer with everyone literally attacking each other. Just forget the game. We're doing like throwing elbow drops, just like butt slides and like leg drops and shit. Just and killing the other team. I'm a fan of that concept. I'd watch baseball more often if it was a contact sport. That's all I'm saying.
Baseball is a contact sport. You can, well, I guess
each
not.
other.
I was going to say, back in the day, you could run over the catcher, but you can't do that anymore.
Elbow drop.
I mean, you get the dugout brawls. So I mean, occasionally you do see a fight, but it's not like watching hockey.
Yeah, you don't see it often enough. I've seen enough baseball games live too. I don't see enough fights. I'd see more baseball games if I saw more fights.
Enjoy. You're saying you did not enjoy the Americans in the baseball episode? It's like
the Americans. I was just like. Again, it was so stupid, but I was just like, why is there commentary to this game? That was my main takeaway that I was getting annoyed at. And it shouldn't have even annoyed me, but I'm like, why? Why is this here?
I was thinking that you would actually enjoy the baseball episode, mainly because the comedy in Demon Slayer was so bad that any comedy that works is suddenly much better.
But you had moments of comedy in the show anyway, because I mean, like, most of the stuff, realistically, that Mugen does has at least an element of comedy. Whether I find it funny all the time, I don't, but, like, it is there. Like, he has moments that are funny. Even Fu, or because Jin is so rigid, like, usually there's, like, some element there. But, like, you could have put this between, like, again, like I said, the dojo episode learning about Jin hits in the feels, because you have this nemesis that, you know, he thought was like, Jin thought he was only there to be his nemesis, when in reality he looked up to him as a brother. So, like,
yeah, that was a bummer.
So obviously I saw parallels with that, because Tony, you and me, like, obviously we're at each other's throats when we're younger and grew much closer getting older. So realize, like, wow, like, maybe I should have done these things as the older brother growing up. Kind of hit me the same way. That's why I liked that episode a lot. And then you get into the blind woman assassin, who there's still funny moments, because you have Mugen, who's like unbelievable, like, oh, she's so hot, got big hooters, blah blah blah. It's goofy, but it's there. And then you have the ending, which, I mean, they have to wrap it in a nice little bow, which, I mean, to me is an excuse, but nonetheless they do. But then you do these episodes. To me, you could have done these episodes, or at least even the baseball one, in between those, and then my least favorite of the whole series.
Understandable.
But you at least, like, don't put those two Jump the Shark episodes back to back. You could have split them a little more.
Yeah, but I also appreciate the moments of respite I received, and a kind of a false sense of security put me underneath for 2 episodes straight. Like, hey, maybe we're getting back to the fun again. And like, no, oh shit, sad city, and the show's almost over. For 3 episodes straight. I prefer that to just having the latter half of the season just being good. Don't come back to this. You can stop watching at episode 18, kind of feeling. That is reason to come back and watch more.
So if we're talking about episodes which have very little bearing on the plot, you are someone who prefers, like, in Paranoia Agent, where they have the episode about the housewives telling stories about little Slugger.
Agent.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was a good one.
That was, but yes, I like, it would make more sense to me. Again, I'm a Supernatural, like, watched that show forwards, backwards, and every which way. Like put those episodes, like, smack in the middle makes more sense, and then really establish, because I get it. I mean, this was 26 episodes. You're going to have, not everything is going to, like, sit there and go in a linear direction. You have to have the breaks in between. So, but you could have broken it up a little better. Not at the very end of the show when we're waiting for the climax to happen.
Yeah, I agree to disagree there. I felt that was a good point. It wasn't necessarily episode a 2-parter.
The final episode was a 3-parter.
No, the one with the blind woman.
Yeah, that was a 2-parter.
Oh, that was 2. Yep.
Yeah, it was a 2-parter. We needed 2 episodes of levity after that, followed by a 3-parter. You can't do a 2-parter of sadness followed by a 3-parter of sadness. That's sad.
I'm in the later part of X-Men 97, and that
is just pouring it on.
Yeah, it's just like, hey, do you want all the tragedy? Here, have some more.
I have to watch that show, and everybody everybody tells me how good it is, but everybody does say how depressing it is. So it's like, I don't
They realize they only have 10 episodes, and all the levity that you talked about is just gone. They just threw out the levity in favor of all tragedy for 10 episodes straight.
This is where I know personally I kind of fall in the middle politically, because I have one side of people tell me I have to watch Sound of Freedom. I don't want to. It's going to be horribly depressing. And the other side that tells me to watch X-Men 97, which I actually do want to, but I don't want to because they tell me how horribly depressing it is. I just want to be in the middle and not be horribly depressed.
It's a cartoon, so less depressing. No, that's not necessarily true. Like it's less sad than Sound of Freedom.
I have no desire to watch Sound of Freedom. I have 3 children. I don't even want to. Like, I acknowledge bad things happen in the world, but nonetheless, I want those thoughts away from me. But like going to the Blind Woman Assassin episode, I don't think the first part of that episode was depressing. It was more or less like, wow, like, okay, she's a blind badass, and like, how are they going to defeat her? And then once you learn the motives in the second episode, then you're like, okay. And then the ending gets sad because, like, well, by the way, I'm doing this for somebody that's not even here, and that's which I understand them not showing. I think, honestly, unfortunately, in a weird way, you could have gone darker, which would have made the story land harder. I'm granted these are only 23-minute episodes, so you got to cover a lot in that span. But if you would have had like whoever's running her to be like, oh, we're doing this, and maybe like trip over his words or give away that like, no, we actually unfortunately killed your son like however long ago, and we're still making this. Like that would have made it land harder, because then it wouldn't have just said, oh, conveniently I realize now my son is dead while I'm fighting you. Like that.
I don't think there's any other way they could have
flow.
Maybe if they had like a flashback doing what you were talking about. Maybe if she had a flashback in that moment and then drops her sword.
You don't have to show the murder. Like, don't believe me, don't do that.
Yeah,
like, not like what was that Philippine anime we watched years ago where you hear the baby crying in the forest?
Tresse.
I don't want that. No, no. Like that's I don't know, not in the slightest. But like I do understand, like, yes,
all
like,
bets are off.
Like she goes back and realizes somebody said something and then gave it away.
Good to know that you still hate the spider babies.
I feel like I hallucinated that whole thing. I didn't tell you how it ended.
So, I guess standard action anime thing. Did you have any favorite fights in this? I know that we previously went over that, like, unlike Demon Slayer, they don't need to put frills on actual sword play. They just have swings. They have a whoosh sound and
slashes.
It's enough.
Lots of slashes.
Flashes of light. It's enough.
Like that one crazy-eyed blonde dude at the final 3-parter, just like go around like, oh, you said you were gonna not tell anybody, slash, and then he's like, Jesus, he just goes on a killing spree.
Every team needs a psycho.
I was kind of underwhelmed by like Mugen's final boss because just kind of 3 dudes. But I guess that's kind of the point, that Mugen has run so many people the wrong way that eventually 3 dudes are gonna go after it.
I don't like. I just wish they were just 3 random henchmen. I didn't need that. They needed this backstory of like, you cost us our government job. Like they don't. To me, they didn't need a reason to be violent. Just make them evil henchmen.
Yeah, it's like
that are just badasses.
Mugen
already had like the one dude with like the swinging dagger thing. That was pretty cool.
That was my favorite fight. The entire series, those two going at it was incredible. It got him in a small package. They reverse roll up and they like pulled the blade back in his face. The little wrestling moments are really neat.
Well, yeah, like that final 3-parter for the fights wise was like WrestleMania. Like 3 matches in a row that are all good.
And I love that they both had to do the sacrifice play in order to win. The only way they could win was by sacrificing their bodies. And somebody still survived. There were a lot of fake outs there. There were a few moments I definitely thought the characters were dead. And they were like, no, I'm just going to keep doing this. They're
yeah,
fine.
like, I mean, you both answer me. Like, does it feel like the story would have been more complete if Jin would have sacrificed himself? Because this is supposed to be the best sword fighter in, if not the world, at least Japan. Like, wouldn't it have felt a little more clear if Jin did, like, throw out this move, but, like, in essence, truly did sacrifice himself?
Absolutely, and I feel like the writers at least know that. But a common theme of the show seems to be that they just keep lucking out. Like someone's looking out for them or something. Situations where they absolutely should be dead. People keep like missing the last minute. Shit keeps happening that causes them to survive, and it's no different here. The last moment where they have like their swords clash and just break on each other, there's someone that doesn't want them to kill each other, and it's kind of cool.
I
They're just supposed to live.
Yeah, I am gonna say I don't think that's a better ending. If with granted, my reading is very like it's is way too focused on the Lost Generation, where it's like, okay, so Mugen and Jean are about the ages that that the Lost Generation would have been in, or a little bit older.
Yeah.
So it's very much like, hey, you got you guys are able to survive this. Like if someone ended up having to self-sacrifice, then you're asking of a generation who sacrificed a lot in that recession to like, oh, that it's no good for you. Just die. And things will be better for the next generation. At least there's some hope in keeping both your characters alive and then having Fu be like the sparkle of hope that is Gen Z, even though they're a bunch of fucking conservative weirdos.
They're not all conservative weirdos. Everyone's in all over the place.
Yeah.
No, they're not as bad as some things go, but they're I have definitely read a lot of articles of like, oh, Gen Z is the more boring people. It's like, oh great, we're getting the yuppies again. Hooray.
Yeah.
We're just cycling.
Circle of life.
Everything goes in cycles. We're doing another 80s.
Yeah.
We had the overregulation from COVID. Now it's going to revert back again. Always does. Always goes in cycles. And then we'll get deregulation, and then we'll have the housing market collapse, and then we'll go this way again.
There'll be another war.
Yay! I love capitalist boom and bust cycles. I love that they're accelerated. I love that they're accelerated in the modern age.
Like I said, tell me I'm wrong. I don't see the housing market. I don't see it not do a correction.
Oh well, it'll mean cheap housing when I end up selling this place for cheap and buy another house for cheap. Because when you already have a house, like doesn't matter where the housing market is. You're losing out on one end.
It means you get the refinance. That's our benefit.
We financed low, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. This is no millennial talk. Let's talk about our 401ks. Let's talk about the fact that I paid off my student loan today.
Ooh. Seriously?
Yeah, I took a loan out on my 401k, so I'm basically just paying myself the interest back.
Congrats.
So it's not really paid, because now I'm the loan servicer, but...
A lateral move. But
I can't fight the man when I am the man now, but it's also just me. So anyway, so Marlon, Samurai Champloo, from just random like lists I've found online, people have labeled as number 8, number 6, and number 2, just across 3 I found at random, of the best anime of all time. Do you disagree with any of those and goes like, no, it needs to be lower, or do you do you agree with one of the?
I'm hard at 2. It's definitely number 2 there, and its only competition is Satoshi Kon's Paranoia Agent or Cowboy Bebop. And there's like a rotation between those three in the top three spots for me, because not only does it treat the audience like they're smart, but you also have some goofy episodes that, in among really like dark subject matter, you have episodes that actually brings back the levity a bit, and I appreciate that. And that on top of it, you have these insane fight scenes for some reason. The fight scenes don't need to be this good on a show like this, but they are, and they're 90% of the show is just action, which is a huge step up over Cowboy Bebop. So no, two, it's a solid two.
Joey, how about you? In your limited anime run, although we have quite a few under our belt now, like, where does this fit in? Like, would you put this near the top of all time? Is this with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which was your favorite?
I put JoJo's ahead of this. I will say, going to Marlon's point, I mean, I will put this top 5 easy, but I've grown in appreciation more for Cowboy Bebop. The older I've gotten, and the more I've watched it. Maybe it's because before I didn't like it, because when you introduced me to it when we were younger, I didn't get it. I not at all. And then at the same time, like, and I always thought of anime as Pokemon, so I initially hate because I didn't like Pokemon. So that's what, and Dragon Ball Z, and I didn't like Dragon Ball Z. So I thought of it like that, and like, of course, because I didn't get the show at the time, I just chose not to like it. Now, as I've watched it a little bit, I've grown more appreciative of what it is. So it's tough for me to say this is better than Cowboy Bebop. I'd say it's on par with it. JoJo's is just goofy central. It never takes itself seriously, but it's so much stupid fun to watch. And it was largely memorable for what we did see. Now, granted, I haven't seen more than the 10 episodes.
You've only watched the first arc. There are like, just in anime form, there are 4 more Joestars that you can follow at this point, because it always follows a different one.
And and on top of that, like, some of the stuff that you've had me watch from Gundam, I didn't dislike. I mean, just unfortunately, there's some episodes that are just, to me, crap. Like that ending of what's the one that was such a bad ending, where they could have ended it the episode before.
Gundam the Origin, where the very last episode is very much a, like, hey, the first episode of regular Gundam is coming up. Yeah, it's like Char's story is done, and now we need to tell this Amuro story.
But I mean, there's good things to that too. But no, I mean, overall, I would put this. There's some parts of the animation I don't like just for the look of it. Like, I just realized, like, as much as I like the opening theme, some of the visuals in the opening theme I didn't like as much, because it's got kind of that traditional anime look I don't like. But just like where the lines just become like just very, I don't want to say rigid. It's just this weird style where everything looks very straight lined, and I don't like it as much.
And I was also wrong. It was Gundam the 08th MS team that you were thinking of.
Oh yeah, 08th MS team.
Where Shiro and Aina should just die, and instead they give you a whole...
The least likable character is trying to provide you optimism. Right. Or the 2 least likable characters at that, not just one. But I would put this, based on what we've watched from series, I like this better than anything Satoshi Kon. Like, I didn't like Paranoia Agent that much. What was the other series of his? We've watched his movies too, but
like Perfect Blue, Tokyo Godfathers. Those were the movies.
I did like Tokyo Godfathers. I would say I like this better than Tokyo Godfathers, though. So yeah, I would say I like this better than anything Satoshi Kon. I like this anything better than who's the one that made Princess Mononoke?
That is Miyazaki.
Yep.
I like, again, this better. There's very few things that we've watched that I liked better than this. Like, the only ones I can think of is Belle or JoJo's. Really, the only 2 I've really truly liked better. Or no, in Grave of the Fireflies. But
Grave of the Fireflies is its own kind of little special thing over here.
Yeah. mean, if shows like Demon Slayer out there, you need shows like this and Cowboy Bebop to really be a palate cleanser. Because I feel like shows like Demon Slayer, it's too mainstream. It almost treats you like an idiot. It's clearly for kids. And we're watching this other one called Kaiju 8 that kind of has the same vibe right now. It is made to sell action figures. It's nice to have a show that's not here to sell action figures occasionally. Just tell me a good story for adults. You're not putting merchandise on my thing.
Yeah, like
no one's naming their attacks or anything.
Going back to what you're saying, like I don't think Demon Slayer is a bad show. I really don't. Like, it's got episodes that are like I hate to use it because Tony, you'll say this sometimes, and I don't necessarily agree. But if you take out those 2 episodes of this show is almost perfect. Like the baseball episode and the collision episodes like ruin it, and I don't like how they establish Mugen in the beginning because I don't think he's as likable. But the way they progress the story is really good. Like there's some things in the ending where I don't think you need to like. Not everything needs to come together in this perfect little bow where everybody was basically put here for this reason. I think you can make things a little more random, but again, the way the action plays out and the way the stories play out, it's still like it's very cohesive. It still is in it, and it's entertaining throughout.
Yeah.
Yeah, so before I get into what we are watching next, it's going to be a wild card, and Marlon will know because I'm keeping it secret from him as well. But the out of 7 score. So 1, once again, insulting to intelligence. 2 is bad, but with maybe some redeeming qualities. 3 is a general I liked it statement. 4 is good, but with some like errors. Like 3 is always kind of like despite everything I liked it. The somehow Palpatine has returned of the scores.
No, give that a lower score than that is. You get me started on that garbage.
5 is good for the genre, 6 is exemplary for the genre, and 7 is so good it has redefined what good is. So, yep. So Marlon, if this is number 2, is it a 7 for you?
I want to say 7. I'm leaning more towards 6, but I do want to say 7. Shows like this and Bebop are in a category of their own, and they will create a false sense of expectation for what anime is. And that's always my issue with watching this and Cowboy Bebop. I always look for something similar afterwards, and there's not really much out there like it. The closest you'll have is Paranoid Agent or a show like Trigun, but even Trigun is more in the goofier end. It tries to be it, but it's not quite there. It's really hard to it's a filet mignon of freaking anime. You can't really compete with these 2 shows.
What would it help if I say that 7 is this show reset the bar for you on like what is good for this given thing? It's just do the thumb thing.
It ruined Konami for me. Like after this was off the air, like, well, I guess I'm not watching it anymore because I'm just off looking for more mature works. You can't really compete with this anymore. You raised my bar to another level, and now you can't even jump it yourself. So good job. Fully Cooley came close. That was fun, but it had to go the exact opposite direction to get my attention.
Yeah. If I'm putting myself in the position of when I first watched this, I would probably be like 6 skirting on 7. I think Cowboy Bebop was just better overall. Samurai Champloo always felt like a little bit of lesser Bebop to me. And so it's still very good. It's still like amazing for what it's doing. But I mean, if Cowboy Bebop is the 7 and that's setting the bar, then this is kind of meeting it. It's on the pedestal in my opinion. So Joey, what is your score?
Even the stuff I don't like, I can still watch again. It didn't redefine anime to me. That's why I can't give it a 7. Like JoJo's and Grave of the Fireflies redefined anime. Grave of the Fireflies, like, that was the stage in that show when we were watching and I didn't really like anything. And then we watched Grave of the Fireflies and my mind was Or then when we watched JoJo's, and I was like, "There's none of these goofy shows I like," and then I changed my mind. So I can't give it that because I've seen good before. It didn't redefine, but it was. I would have to give this at least a 6, even despite like those filler episodes. Those filler episodes, my main gripe about them is where they're placed within the season. It's not that they're not entertaining. I mean, they're goofy, but I mean, every episode of JoJo's is goofy. So, yeah, I would stay at least a 6. I mean, it's tough for me, like, even watching Cowboy Bebop now and having that grown appreciation. Cowboy Bebop felt even more original. Like, Cowboy Bebop feels like Firefly before Firefly even came out.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Bebop is why I watched Firefly to begin with.
Yeah, like, it's... Whereas this one just, I mean, it's more or less feudal, not, I guess not feudal Japan, but it's like again, like the end of the samurai era Japan, like pre-industrial era Japan. So, I mean, like I've seen those stories before, but it does feel fresh and new, and it is certainly entertaining. And again, the best theme song that we've heard in any of the shows we've watched.
I will still disagree with you. The mix just needs to be better. So
I enjoy it.
What we're doing next? So Demon Slayer came out with their first two episodes of the new season. So that's going on in the background. We do not need to watch it in real time. We also need to wait for the dub because we've been watching the dub. I'm not going to switch to the sub at this point. I have already seen the first episode because I watched the movie version. I was disappointed. I think it teases you, making you making you think that's going to be a better show, and then it just decides to be Demon Slayer again. But we'll. I was going to say but we'll see. But we'll see how the episode goes. It's a big training arc. It is the Hashira training arc. So you get to see what the Hashira all do before they go into the Infinity Castle and try to defeat the big bad. But that's on the side. We eventually need to go back to feudal Japan with Demon Slayer and go back to shonen anime and watching anime for small boys. So we need to find some sort of transition. Some sort of like gritty, slightly immature shonen.
Every anime we have watched is gritty. There's I can only think of like one or two that I wouldn't classify as gritty. Even Princess Mononoke from the very beginning is gritty.
Well, we need a gritty and slightly immature anime for boys, and we need it to be a limited run because we don't want to spend too much time on it. So, Joey, we're going to make you watch Chainsaw Man, and you might hate it.
It already sounds like I'm going to hate
it. It is modern Japan. There are definitely going to be parts that you will not expect this show to do. And whether or not it delights you or terrifies you, I do not know. But it will be an interesting ride.
Great.
But, and this is going to be one of the situations where probably best to watch the end credits for every episode because there was some money put into this show. There is a different ending credit theme and animation for each episode, each of the 12 episodes.
All right.
It's a neat feature.
Is it on Crunchyroll still?
It is on Crunchyroll. It is dubbed, so you can watch it there.
It's on Hulu too.
Yeah, it is on Hulu as well. But then you watch it with like 18,000 commercials. And fortunately, when you watch it on my Crunchyroll, it has no commercials. That is what saves Samurai Champloo. If I was watching Samurai Champloo off Hulu, and I am dealing with like 5 commercial breaks in between like 23-minute episodes, it's actually partially turning me off X-Men 97 because Disney Plus has a lot of commercial breaks in between it, and it's not like
Disney Plus started playing commercials.
commercials?
Tells you like I've owned Disney Plus from the beginning. I have not watched it until like the one who watches it, Brooklyn, because we got a shit ton of Bluey. But
yeah, mine doesn't have commercials, so I was lost for a second. You're like, what? Oh, right. You could just pay to just not have commercials.
No, I just
like $2.
I just added Disney Plus for $2
Okay.
on my Hulu, so my Hulu has commercials. I'm suffering.
Why didn't you just still log into mine?
Because then I need to get like a weird code for it, and it's a whole thing. It kicks you off periodically. It's kind of like Netflix now.
Oh, yeah. Netflix do that too.
Yep.
Bogus.
So yeah, we'll do Chainsaw Man next month. If we want to do a separate episode, just as a bonus episode, and do Godzilla -1, that is still on the table. If you want to do The Boy and the Heron, we can also do that. If for anyone in the audience, currently there's no one, but people watching the review, go see Boy Kills World and go see The Fall Guy. Both were very good. Both are probably so Fall Guy I know is on streaming tomorrow, a
month later.
And Boy Kills World is going to be on streaming like next week. I feel they haven't announced it yet, but that was in theaters for literally a weekend.
Can't we just tell everybody to go see Furiosa on Friday?
Yeah, at this point, go see Furiosa.
Furiosa doesn't need help to do well. Like
you say that.
It's
yeah, I was gonna say
it's like, oh, I wonder if Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be successful.
Well, that'd be
No, Furiosa will do fine. Let's check the Alamo Draft House here. Let's check the Friday showings. Well, we're in real time, just looking at
all sold out.
Speaking of, should we watch it? Should Joe watch Dance with Dragons season 2? The game.
Dance with Dragons. Oh, that.
Yeah,
right.
Dance.
Yeah, I'm actually watching season 2.
Oh, the House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon. So, like Dance of Dragons. I wish it was called Dances of Dragons.
Well, that's one of the books, but it's like that's why I got it confused. But like, I still need to finish season 1, just because of.
It gets good.
I've heard that. I should watch it. NBA playoffs right now have kind of rattled my brain.
Yeah. Watch as a palate cleanser afterwards.
Oh, and Joey, before we go, have you seen that they've actually released trailers for the NCAA EA game? There are people touching trophies?
Yes.
That's about it.
And guess what? Sad Sap Joe already did.
Did you pre-order it?
The deluxe bundle of both Madden and NCAA college football. Because it's EA Sports college football. It's not NCAA football. So yes, they already have my money.
What does the deluxe bundle come with?
A trophy.
Do you get
both games and probably just a bunch of shit for Ultimate Team?
Like I got the I have the deluxe edition of Baldur's Gate 3 coming, and they're giving me like cloth maps and like a special box and all that other stuff. They should give you. They should give you a cloth map of a college.
I would
send you a pamphlet. What did it cost?
This way. I am paying less for those 2 games than I am to go to my alma mater playing the University of Colorado in August.
Oh, it's pretty well spent.
That is, I know, and to see my alma mater hopefully get blown out, but because I like Colorado, I like Shedeur Sanders, and I like Dion, but we'll see. And of course, I mean, less money. I mean, I'll still, as disappointed as I am, because I haven't talked to you since, Tony, really outside of Messenger, but still probably going to shell out the money and maybe go to Vegas next year. Like, maybe do the Mania trip.
Maybe.
Vegas isn't that far away. It is a cheap flight.
I give that a maybe because it is a cheap flight, but at the end of the day, you're like sitting in a stadium for like 4 hours, very far away from the ring. Like, what's the... I still question what's the point of watching wrestling from so far away.
It's sadly more or less going to like all the stuff beforehand. It's going to
Yeah, but can't you just get access
WrestleMania
tickets?
store.
I'm pretty sure you can just
That's right.
get
You do have to
access
pay
tickets.
access tickets, don't you? Ugh, that's lame.
Just go to WrestleCon, see a bunch of... So, Giant Bomb posted like a vlog of like the surrounding stuff around Philly. And when they go to WrestleCon, it's so depressing. It's just like a hotel ballroom and a bunch of bored-looking wrestlers. Like, here's Scott Steiner wearing chainmail and on his phone, probably checking on his Shoney's franchises.
I guess it's not really a wrestling time.
When we drove to Florida, we were driving through Atlanta. I'm like, oh, we should stop at the Shoney's. The Shoney's right up north. I forget the name of the town, but it was like, this is Scott Steiner's, and Ashley was looking it up. Like, it closed a year and a half ago. Like,
no.
Maybe he's still lurking about. It's just in there.
Marlon, did
you live in there now?
Philly? Any of the Philly?
No, I didn't bother.
No.
I didn't do anything here. I did not care.
You didn't go to a GCW show? Or
No, I didn't show any cash for any of that stuff. No. You think I would have, but no. Once I didn't get WrestleMania tickets, I just did not give a shit. That's the one I wanted.
I mean, sadly, AEW comes up to where our dad used to live in Loveland, which is about an hour and a half away. And they go there in 2 weeks. They'll be there on Wednesday. And was like, do I want to go?
Oh, are they doing like an arena show at Fort Collins or something? Or
no, it's in Loveland. It's at the hockey arena in Loveland.
Oh, okay. They're doing like a weird God, what's the word? What's the word when like a singer in Vegas does like multiple shows there? Yeah, they're doing like a residency in like Houston.
Collision and Rampage.
Yeah.
I'd say I'd catch them once they stop by in Philly, because they stopped by here enough, but no, all my favorites are gone. You guys have like what, Edge now? So I'll go to see them for Edge maybe.
That's what I was like. I love Christian stuff, and he's in like the world title picture. I did like Dynasty as a show. I still bought that, but like the rest of their stuff is so just all over the place. Like
they don't really have a through line. They don't really have a plot.
I mean, it's not like I'm watching like so much more. Like the reason I'm watching Raw right now is Chad Gable, because I love Chad Gable. And I do like CM Punk, but like he's not on there every week. And I like McIntyre. I'm not watching SmackDown, I'm not watching NXT. So sadly, the only one the good news is Raw will be this much easier to watch this time next year because I can watch it whenever I want on Netflix. Who's becoming sports giant now that they're just getting 2 NFL games too.
Then I feel like it's easier to be a casual of WWE. They'll always over-explain to you what's happening or what has happened, and they'll catch you up super quick. You can't really get casual.
Way to watch, too.
You have to give a shit about AEW to watch AEW. And they don't do a good job convincing me to give a shit about AEW.
I'm busy on Wednesdays, so I haven't watched AEW, and like I'll occasionally buy a pay-per-view is really what it comes down to.
Unfortunately, the only thing you ever hear about AEW is usually the pundits shitting on them. And I mean, granted, they kind of do a lot of it to themselves, but I mean, that's kind of eventually bad press does come to hurt you.
Yeah, ask TNA.
Yes, I know.
They're surviving.
Are they? Yeah. Are they even on TV anymore?
They're on a channel. I don't know which ones.
They're not even, I don't think they're even on Access TV anymore.
What's that thing with the owl? Don't they have them?
That's where I still get spoiled, and like I still get like mad, is because I again like as much as like a lot of people were on I was the TNA guy back in like 05, 06. I'm like, this is gonna be the stuff. And then
until Hogan showed up.
Then the 6-sided ring went away. Yep, and then Hogan did and then like
you ruined it.
I was like, where's AJ and Samoa Joe? Like even Kurt Angle coming was like so cool. But then
Yeah. it just turned into WCW really quickly.
The X
And
division. The X division is stupid because it's meaningless. It's like, no,
why
like
watch it?
it was our excuse to watch like the good match. I didn't want a story of the X division. I wanted like the train wreck. Like that's what the X division was about. You already it was like basically a match with the story because the story was these two are going to do anything to win. But yeah, tangent for another time.
Yep. On that note, we will end the show. We have someone in here. I don't know if it's just someone who's just randomly on Twitch, but hi, random person. But yeah, we're doing we're doing Chainsaw Man next time. And otherwise we'll be up on the YouTube thing. So see ya. I'm going to hit the stop streaming